I never imagined that a lonely CEO would offer a home to a shivering nurse in need of family. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was raining, tearing down from the sky like an angry chorus. My heart felt heavy, like it was weighed down by a boulder of despair. I stood on the rainy pavement, clutching my flimsy briefcase, drenched in my own heartbreak. The hospital lights flickered, but none of them could provide warmth. I was just a nurse. The world didn't care. My life had turned into a series of late shifts, bloodstained scrubs, and whispered prayers. That night was different. It felt ominous as thunder rumbled in the distance. As I hurried out, I spotted him. A vague silhouette against the bright lights of his towering glass office. The rumored CEO of our city's largest corporation. A man known for being a ghost, not just in the office, but in life. He was surrounded by wealth and yet seemed impossibly alone. My heart raced. I felt as if a magnetic pull was drawing me towards him. Curiosity clawed at me. Was he really as cold as the rumors suggested? What could that man possibly want with me? I had nothing to offer. The doors creaked open as I approached, enveloping me in a cool breeze. I stepped inside, and the scent of polished wood mixed with expensive perfume hit my senses. It was surreal. He stood there, eyes dark like the night. I wondered if he saw my fear, or was it something else brewing beneath my calm facade? "Come in," he beckoned, his voice steady yet laced with an unshakable sadness. The walls were decorated with art that felt misplaced, just like us. Here, in this sterile space, I was both a stranger and a puzzle piece missing from the elaborate picture. Every word left his lips like a secret, hinted at a world I couldn't access. He asked about my life, my struggles, but it felt like I was sharing too much. There was a flicker of understanding in his eyes, yet I felt the chasm between us. He offered me a chair, but I hesitated, my hands trembling as I tried to catch the elusive rhythm of this bizarre moment. "Why me?" I managed to whisper, realizing that every second was weighed down by a past that couldn't stay buried. "Why would a man of his stature care for a nurse?" "You need a home," he said simply, "and so do I." His words hit my chest like a bullet. The honesty was so raw, it stung. Could I trust him? Could I trust myself? In that swirl of uncertainty, something primal pulled at my heart like an untamed tide. And then came the abrupt silence. The air changed. I could feel it in my bones. What did he really know about me? Was there a reason behind this offer, a hidden agenda lurking like shadows in the corner of the room? I looked deep into his eyes, searching for answers, but all I found was a mirror reflecting my own pain. Would I take this leap into the unknown or retreat back into the familiar sorrow that had become my life? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days passed like shadows creeping across the floor of my heart, each sunrise marking yet another escape from the comfort of the familiar mundane. The rain that once drummed a melancholic lullaby against my window now felt like a relentless reminder of the choice I had made. Accepting his offer, his invitation into a life so different from mine, felt both liberating and suffocating. From the moment I moved into the lavish penthouse, it was clear I was an interloper in a world that had no space for vulnerability. The marble countertops gleamed like an invitation to a banquet I wasn't sure how to attend. Every corner of the house was meticulously designed, a stark contrast to the faded walls and peeling paint of my former apartment that had become an echo chamber of loneliness. His presence was a mixture of comfort and confusion. The CEO, once a mere figure in a suit whispering of power and loyalty, had turned into a quiet companion who seemed to wrestle with demons as fierce as my own. Each dinner shared was laden with silence, punctuated only by the clinking of cutlery that felt unnervingly intimate. I watched him from across the table, searching for the warmth that seemed perpetually out of reach. But as days blended into weeks, I began to notice small gestures that began to chip away at the fortress of solitude he surrounded himself with. One evening, after coming home from another grueling shift, I found a small bouquet of wildflowers waiting on the kitchen island, simple, yet brimming with a beauty that felt like a gentle reminder he was thinking of me. I smiled, the first genuine smile that creased my lips in a long time, warmth blossoming in my chest like spring after a harsh winter. But just as I started to feel a flicker of hope for companionship, a new shadow entered our lives. Jordan, his assistant, arrived unexpectedly one evening, carrying a cloud of tension that made my heart race. She entered the penthouse as if claiming territory, her confidence burst from her polished demeanor like a bright light that threatened to extinguish the soft glow I was trying to nurture. "Just checking in on the both of you," she said, her eyes flitting between us as if searching for cracks in our delicate facade. I felt the air grow heavy, my heart clenched as I sensed an unspoken challenge in her gaze. "James needs support, a partner who can keep him focused." Her words cut through the silence, and I suddenly felt like an unwelcome guest in his life. "I'm doing my best," I replied defensively, realizing how the need to prove myself threatened to unearth my insecurities. "Is that so?" she observed with a mock cheerfulness that left an uncomfortable sting. I forced a smile, desperate to maintain my ground, but in her eyes was a clear implication. I didn't belong here. After she left, I sat on the sofa, running the soft fabric between my fingers as heartache flooded my thoughts. I could feel his frustration permeating the room, like heat radiating from a fire that could spark and burn everything down. "I'm sorry about that," he said, his voice strained. "She can be intense." "It's fine," I replied, my carefully constructed defenses crumbling. "But it feels like I'm competing with an idea of what you need versus who I am." He crossed the room, standing close enough for me to see the weariness etched into his features. "I didn't bring you here to compete. I only wish to help." His words held a sincerity that pierced through the anxiety tangled within me. But there was something else unspoken, a darker thread that wove between us, some truth neither of us dared to acknowledge. With each cool touch of intimacy, I yearned to connect deeper. Yet, every time I felt our hands nearly intertwine, something would pull us apart, a reminder of the chaos we both carried. I could see glimpses of his past, the intense weight he bore like chains around his soul, and the fear that lurked in his eyes. As I stepped closer, preparing to bridge the distance, a phone notification broke the serene bubble we had created. He reached for the device on the table, glancing down. Before his expression darkened as shadows took hold of his handsome face. "James?" I carefully spoke his name, sensing the storm brewing within him. "They're calling me back," he replied, voice strained. "There's something I need to deal with." I watched as he retreated, slipping out of reach as if I had sparked a fire he wasn't ready to face. My heart sank as the door closed behind him, leaving me in the cold glow of his absence. I felt helpless, my solace now wrapped in anxiety, the shadows creeping further into my being. In that moment of solitude, waiting for him to return, I made a decision: I wouldn't hide from this journey any longer. Maybe love and pain were two sides of the same coin, and perhaps, just perhaps, there was a chance we could both learn to break free. As I stared at the shadows dancing on the walls, a thought flickered in my mind like candlelight: what if there was a hidden truth that could bind us together or tear our fragile connection apart forever? And then, a soft knock at the door broke the air. My heart pounded once more as I hurried to answer, unaware of the shocking revelation that lay just beyond. I opened the door slowly, my heart racing, wondering who could possibly be on the other side. The soft light from the hallway spilled into the dimness of the penthouse, illuminating a figure that made my breath catch in my throat. It was Jordan, her expression a mix of deliberate sweetness and concealed urgency, as if she were delivering a message cloaked in honeyed tones. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice low and insistent. I hesitated, glancing back over my shoulder toward the empty living room, where the echoes of our earlier conversation lingered like an unanswered question. But curiosity and perhaps a deeper sense of unease compelled me to step aside and allow her entry, closing the door behind us with a soft click that felt final. "Look, I know things are complicated," she began, her demeanor shifting from commanding to almost vulnerable. "But you need to understand that James is under immense pressure. He doesn't always know how to deal with it." My pulse quickened. "And you do?" She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I've seen him navigate through crises, both personal and professional. He doesn't do well with vulnerability. And you have to realize, it's not just you. He's terrified of losing anyone he cares about. With that admission, the atmosphere thickened. The tension between us transformed, reweaving an uneasy bond in the cracked mosaic of our intertwined lives. I nodded slowly but felt a flood of uncertainty. But what does that mean for me? Am I just a distraction? Jordan paused, searching my eyes with a level of intensity one wasn't prepared for. No. You're not just a distraction. You're the lifeline he's been looking for without even realizing it. But I think you need to help him let you in. Her words hung heavily in the air, and I suddenly felt exposed, like a seed in the wind unsure which way to settle. What if I can't? What if he pushes me away? With a sigh, she stepped back, her confidence faltering for just a moment. You're stronger than you think. And it's okay to be afraid. But staying in the shadows won't help either of you. Just then, the cell phone on the countertop buzzed softly, and our heads snapped around at the sound. It was his phone, and on the screen, a new message lit up. We need to talk about last night. You know what I mean. The message was from an unknown number, but the urgency in the words sent a chill through me. I looked at Jordan, whose eyes widened, understanding dawning amidst the tension. James wasn't just being called back for work, she said quietly, her voice heavy with implications. What do you mean? I pressed, sensation melding fear with an inexplicable urge to protect the fragile bond we'd begun to forge. The night before you arrived, she continued, her voice barely above a whisper, something happened. He's been dealing with the fallout ever since. I clenched my fists beneath the table, anxiety twisting inside me like a coiling serpent. What kind of fallout? Jordan took a deep breath, her next words seeming to tremble in the air between us. I can't say too much, but he has a past with someone who would do anything to keep him cornered. It's complicated. My chest tightened as the weight of this new revelation settled across my skin. I felt as if a dense fog had rolled in, isolating me from the warmth I'd begun to feel. The gap between us was widening again, and all I could do was watch as the walls built themselves back up inside James. Just then, the door swung open, and there he was, his face pale, eyes shadowed with discomfort, as if he'd stepped straight out of a storm. What's going on? He demanded, glancing between Jordan and me, the light in his gaze wavering precariously. Just talking about how amazing you are, Jordan replied, a playful tone disguising the tension that thrummed in the air. James narrowed his eyes, sensing the undercurrents. You don't have to protect me, Jordan, but the vulnerability in his voice captured my heart, flooding me with the realization of just how deep our struggles were intertwined. James, I said softly, daring to take a small step forward, but each word felt heavier than the one before. What's really going on? He looked at me, pain flickering behind his facade, and in that moment, I wanted desperately to reach for him, to bridge the chasm widening between our truths. But as I stepped closer, the weight of unease wrapped itself around my heart, heavy with unspoken fears. Before he could respond, the cell phone buzzed again, and I felt him flinch, looking down, as if the device itself were a harbinger of all the chaos haunting him. The door creaked open just a fraction wider, and a stranger stepped into view, wearing a dark coat that seemed to absorb the light. James, he said, voice smooth yet cutting, we need to talk. Now, and just like that, the world shifted, my heart pounding with the realization that the storm had finally arrived, and we were standing at the precipice, each of us bound by the threads of our own hidden stories. As the stranger stepped forward, the weight in the room intensified, filling the air with an electric tension I could almost taste. My eyes flitted between him and James, trying to gauge the unfolding drama, but James' expression hardened, revealing a flicker of dread that distanced him even further from me. Who the hell is this? He snapped, but his voice lacked the bravado it once held. The stranger merely smiled a chilling smile, devoid of warmth. Just a messenger, James. We need to discuss the terms of your last arrangement. His gaze flickered to me, sizing me up with unsettling precision before landing back on James. It seems our little business has become quite personal. Every instinct in me screamed to retreat, to get out before I was pulled into whatever storm was brewing, but my feet remained rooted in place, the urge to protect James anchoring me in a situation that could quickly spiral out of control. Jordan stepped in front of James, glancing back at him with a fierce determination. I don't think you're welcome here. Whatever it is you think you need, you can't have it like this, the stranger chuckled softly, unfazed. You think you can protect him? How quaint. This is well beyond your grasp, I assure you. What do you want? James demanded, his voice growing steadier, a thin veil of authority resurfacing as he squared his shoulders. The stranger waved a hand dismissively. It's not what I want, but what you owe me. You made a deal, and you know deals have consequences. He paused, letting his words hang in the air, sobering us all as he leaned slightly closer. This is just the beginning, James. And Sweetheart turned his gaze back to me, his smile bordering on smug. Watch yourself. These tides can turn swiftly. Each word he spoke felt sharp and calculated, as if designed to land perfectly inside the core of our fears. The tension became palpable, a live wire crackling between us, and my mind raced with the possibilities that surrounded our fragile connect. A mere flicker in the darkness enveloping James. As if sensing the weight of our collective fear, Jordan took a step back, suddenly realizing the depth of our peril. This isn't just about you, James. You can't simply face this alone. You're not alone anymore. James shot her a look, one filled with a mixture of gratitude and frustration. I know, he replied, the gravity of his admission echoing profoundly in the space between us. Before any of us could gather our thoughts, the stranger chuckled. Shouldn't be spilling emotions in front of the help. Keeps things messy. Then he turned, dismissively walking toward the door as if whatever he just threatened was already beneath him. Something snapped within me. Wait, I called, my voice rising with an urgency I hadn't expected. What does that mean? What did you take from him? The stranger paused, glancing back over his shoulder, and in that moment, I caught a flicker of surprise in his cool demeanor. You're braver than you look. Good luck untangling the mess, sweetheart. You'll need it. He opened the door and disappeared into the hallway, leaving behind a silence that echoed like a gunshot. James stood stock still, his face a mask of determination and turmoil. I didn't want you involved in this. I thought. His voice trailed off, burdened by the weight of unsaid fears. It's a little too late for that, isn't it? I whispered, confusion mingling with a rising panic. I could see the war within him, the push and pull between wanting to protect me and the reality of the fight he was staring down. A soft hand on my shoulder broke through the thickening tension. It was Jordan, her presence steadying and warm as she leaned in. James, you can't turn her away. Whatever difficulties you're facing, doing it alone is no longer an option. It's time to confront your demons. James's resolute expression momentarily faltered, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through as he searched my eyes. I can't let you get hurt. I won't let that happen. We both know you can't fight these battles alone, I said, finding an unexpected surge of strength reflecting back from him. Let me stand with you, James. I'm not just a distraction. I want to be your partner in this. The unspoken emotions tangled in the air between us, mixing with the lingering shadows that hovered around us, thickening like smoke. I could see him battling with something deeper, an ache, perhaps, of unresolved pain that refused to let go, but just then, a soft ping rang from the countertop, James' phone. We all glanced at it, the light illuminating a message that seemed to fracture the stillness in that moment. You're running out of time, James. The challenge echoed in my mind as his face drained of color, a fleeting glimpse of fear flashing across his features. I could feel the ground shift beneath me, the unease tightening its hold around our fragile connection. And as I took a step closer to him, hoping to dispel the darkness, I realized that in this chaotic web of fear and uncertainty, the light would only come if we were willing to fight through the looming shadows together. But did we know how to navigate the approaching storm, or would it consume us whole? The atmosphere hung heavy, carrying the weight of unspoken fears as James stared at his phone, the message burning into his mind like a branding iron. My heart raced in sync with the ticking clock that loomed over us, each second pulling us deeper into an abyss thick with uncertainty. Jordan's hand remained on my shoulder, a steadying force in the chaos. What does it mean? She asked, her voice lowered but steady. The concern mirrored in her gaze urged me to push through the brittle silence that filled the room. James slowly blinked, as if awakening from a trance. It means I'm out of time to sort this out. I thought I had more control over it. His fingers clenched tightly around his phone, the device suddenly the heaviest object in his hand. I was wrong. Maybe you still have options, I suggested, unable to hide the tremor in my voice. We don't have to face this alone. We can figure it out together, whatever it is. His eyes bore into mine, searching for something he might have lost, a flicker of hope perhaps. The problem is I have no idea what I'm dealing with, he admitted, the confession hanging between us like a fragile thread, ready to fray at any moment. The truth stung, the air felt thicker with every unturned stone, and we could sense the walls closing in around us. I could almost hear the echo of the stranger's words, fueling my own insecurities, me presence complicating what might already be an impossible scenario. Well, find out what it is, Jordan insisted, breaking through the suffocating silence. There has to be a lead somewhere. She began to pace, her mind clearly racing. If someone is threatening you, maybe we can track down some part of this deal you made. There has to be a trail to follow. James shook his head, an edge of despair lacing his words. Every time I try to trace it back, I hit a wall. There are layers I haven't even shared with you too. He rubbed the back of his neck, exhaustion creeping into the lines etched on his face. I took a cautious step forward. Whatever those layers are, it's better to face the truth than keep it hidden. You deserve to free yourself from whatever grip this has over you. The fierce determination in my voice seemed to resonate with him, igniting a flicker of resolve in his eyes. I want to believe that, he admitted softly. Suddenly, a faint scratching cut through the tension, and we all turned toward the front door. It seemed like a normal noise at first, but it grew harder and more frantic. A sick feeling pooled in the pit of my stomach. James moved toward the door, and I followed closely at his heels, feeling the air shift to that of dread. The scratching became knocking, fast and desperate. What was worse than whatever awaited us on the other side? Before he could reach for the handle, we heard a voice, a scared, trembling voice that shook me to the core. Please. I need help. They're coming. The plea was underscored by a sharp gasp, and my heart lurched painfully at the raw fear lacing those words. James paused, exchanging a quick glance with Jordan that spoke volumes. Whatever threat loomed over him was now reaching out to us, turning our world upside down in an instant. He hesitated, but the urgency of the voice galvanized him. Who is it? He shouted through the door, stepping back slightly, his hand resting protectively near me. I don't know, came the reply, the voice quaking with terror. But they're looking for you. Please, let me in. My chest tightened as adrenaline surged through me. It could be a trap, James, I warned, knowing all too well the risks associated with opening the door to this unknown. I can't leave someone out there. His decision was resolute, awash with an intensity one had never witnessed before. We have to let them in. They might know something, anything that could help. Before I could respond, he swung the door open wide. The moment froze, stretching time into an agonizing pause before my heart sank at the thin figure silhouetted against the dim light of the hallway. A young woman stumbled inside, her clothes torn and muddy, eyes bulging with fear. But it was the look of raw desperation in her gaze that sent a fresh wave of panic crashing between us. You have to help me, she begged, collapsing against the wall for support. What do you know about James? Jordan asked, stepping forward protectively, while my heart struggled to catch up with the whirlwind of emotions. Her next words cut through the noise like a blade. They're coming for you, and they won't stop until they get what they want. The implications hung thick in the air, and I could feel James' stomach sink beside me. Just when we thought things couldn't get worse, they had. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about all of us, intertwined in a dangerous game where safety was the one thing we couldn't grasp. I turned to James, and in that fleeting moment, something unspoken passed between us, a realization that our fight was just beginning. As fear knotted in the pit of my stomach, a surge of adrenaline washed over me. We may not know what was coming, but I would stand by him, come what may. The woman's eyes darted around frantically, and I whispered a silent prayer that we had enough strength left to navigate the storm that awaited us. With James fighting at my side, I refused to let darkness swallow us whole. But as the door creaked ominously, signaling another presence behind it, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the calm before an even greater storm. The air hung thick with tension, each breath punctuated by the soft, trembling gasps of the newcomer. The woman leaned heavily against the wall, a fragile figure barely holding herself upright, while fear radiated from her, engulfing us. James stepped closer, instinct overtaking caution. What do you mean they're coming for me? His voice was low, but the urgency in it sliced through the chaos, forcing the woman to meet his gaze. They know everything. I overheard them talking. The words tumbled out as if she had been holding them back for an eternity. They're not just looking for you, James. They want to destroy anyone who stands in their way. Why would they want to hurt you? I asked, my heart racing as I tried to grasp the layers unfolding before us. She hesitated, glancing around as if the four walls might have ears of their own. I was supposed to bring you this. She fumbled with her pocket, producing a crumpled piece of paper which she thrust into James' hand. He opened it, his fingers shaking as he scanned the scribbled note. I leaned in closer to see, the words blurring together, a series of time-stamped locations and cryptic warnings. This is a list, he murmured, his voice now barely above a whisper. Places I frequent. Jordan stepped forward, her eyes narrowing as her mind raced through the implications. Someone wants you to change your routine. They want you vulnerable. The tension in the room shifted, the threat now feeling more imminent than ever. I could see the shadows of fear lurking in James' eyes, and it ignited a fierce protectiveness in my chest. Where there had once been uncertainty, now there was a reckoning brewing, the dark clouds of fate swirling dangerously close. Listen, the woman said, cutting through our rising panic, her voice steadier now. You have to leave this place. They'll come here if they think you're still hiding. I can help you. We have to move. Move? I echoed, the idea knotting my stomach. It was one thing to fight against the darkness, it was another to flee from it. But the desperation in her voice and the steely determination in James' eyes nudged a flicker of acceptance in my heart. But as I looked at James, I could see the tidal wave of conflict crashing over him. What about our lives? What about? His voice trailed off, the weight of the unknown making his shoulders sag. Your lives depend on it, the woman insisted. They want something from you, James. I don't know what it is, but it's enough to turn them into animals. Who are these people? I whispered, dread creeping into my thoughts. And what do they want with James? I don't know all the details, she admitted, but desperation overshadowed her uncertainty. But they've been watching you. They know you're connected to something bigger, a deal made long ago that's about to cost you everything. The gravity of her words settled over us, cold and suffocating. My mind raced back to the conversation I overheard about James' past, pieces falling into place like fragments of a shattered puzzle that was just starting to reveal its true picture. Leave now or stay and risk losing everything, she urged, her fear palpable. This isn't just a game. Their next move will come at dawn, and you don't want to be here when it does. What do we do? I asked, grasping James' arm, grounding myself as my stomach twisted with the sudden need for a plan, a sense of salvation against the chaos swirling around us. James closed his eyes for a brief moment. Too need to think, he managed, his voice taut, wrestling with his own demons. Jordan stepped closer, her presence anchoring the moment, her solidarity shining like a beacon through the confusion. We leave together, all four of us. In that instant, a moment of clarity flickered in James' eyes, a resolve. Okay. We pack what we can and disappear. But we have to know more, he said, a defiant edge cutting through his fear. Just as he stepped forward to gather his bag, the tension in the room cracked like a fragile glass, shattered by a sudden sound. Heavy footsteps echoed from the hallway beyond, ominous and deliberate, underscoring the urgency of our situation. We don't have much time, the woman urged, her voice breaking slightly. The fear morphed into determination as we rushed to collect what little we could. My heart hammered wildly, adrenaline suffusing every ounce of my being. As we moved, a chilling thought slithered into my mind. What if this woman had stirred a hornet's nest even further? But hope flickered within me. If we could escape, there might be a chance to uncover the truth and change everything. Just as we gathered our last belongings, the front door rattled, the doorknob twisting with forceful intention. We have to go now, James shouted, urgency coloring his voice. In that heart-stopping moment, I felt the weight of the world crashing down around me as the door threatened to give way. Everything we had ever known hung in the balance. Fear gripped my heart like a vice, squeezing out any semblance of calm. And then, as the door creaked ominously, a seismic realization struck me. James was not the only one whose life was at stake. And somehow, in this chaos, I could feel the threads of our fates intertwining in ways we could not foresee. Just as I was about to shout for James to move, the door burst open, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows, and in that moment, I understood, we were tangled in a web woven from threads of betrayal, darkness, and an undeniable yearning for freedom. Thus, the storm crashed in, ready to rip whatever semblance of safety we had left into shreds. The figure at the door stepped in, illuminated briefly by the flickering overhead light. My heart seized in my chest as I took in the familiar face, the sharp jawline and the piercing gaze. The room held its breath as recognition pulsed between us. It was Marcus, the very man I once trusted, whose betrayal was tattooed on my soul. Marcus, I breathed, a mix of dread and disbelief rippling through me. What are you doing here? His eyes flickered with something a hint of remorse, but it was quickly masked by the hardened resolve etched into his features. I came to help, he said, though the stark edge of his voice cut through the air with little of the warmth I once associated with him. Help? James spat, stepping protectively in front of me, fists clenched at his sides. Are you out of your mind? You're the reason we're in this mess. Let me explain, Marcus insisted, raising his hands in a placating gesture, though the tension hung thick between us, making it hard to breathe. Please. I know how bad this looks. You have to trust me. I was misled, but I can help you get out of here. Get out? Jordan echoed incredulously, her brow furrowing as her gaze darted between us. How? Our lives are at stake. Before Marcus could answer, a loud crash erupted from outside, reverberating through the walls, a cruel reminder of the danger looming over us like storm clouds. They're here, Marcus said, urgency clawing at his voice. We don't have time to argue. You have to come with me. I can get you to safety. Safety? After everything? James scoffed, disbelief morphing into rage. You really expect us to trust you again? You've lied to us before. The stakes have changed. Marcus shot back, desperation threading through his tone. What I did, it was for my business, but I see the truth now. This isn't about the money or the power. They'll stop at nothing to eliminate anyone in their way, including you. With a churning mix of emotions swirling inside me, I felt the pull of both loyalty and suspicion toward Marcus. The memories of shared laughter and secrets flooded my mind, but they were tangled with the betrayal I still bore. If we go with you, I said slowly, trying to weigh the gravity of our next steps, how do we know you won't turn us over? Because they'll come for me too, he replied, sincerity sharpening his features. Look, I have a plan. We can take my car and slip out the back entrance. If there's a way to avoid the street patrols if we leave now. My heart raced. Could I really trust him again? Yet as fear sifted through my veins, I could see panic rising in James's eyes, an urgency that pushed us closer to a decision. We have to make a choice, I said, feeling the weight of responsibility toward our survival. Fast, from the corner of my eye, I saw the woman, her eyes widening in trepidation as she glanced at the door, weighing our options with a frantic energy. You'll need me, too, she said, catching my gaze with an intensity that anchored me amidst the brewing storm. I overheard more than just their plans. If we're going to get out of this, I know where you can hide. The fear and despair contorting my chest gave way to a thread of desperate hope, a flicker of potential in the chaos. It whispered a promise of salvation if we could only grasp onto it tightly enough. James clenched his jaw, his resolve hardening as he turned to Marcus. All right, well, follow your lead, but no tricks. Without a word, Marcus pivoted and rushed toward the back of the building, his footsteps echoing on the worn wooden floors. I glanced at James, and I could see the relief mingling with lingering doubt in his eyes. We have to trust him, I said softly, though my heart trembled at the uncertainty. We hurried after them, spilling into the shadows of the dimly lit hallway. Each step felt heavy with consequence, as if we were escaping not just from the physical threat outside but from the chains of our own past mistakes. Once at the door, Marcus slid it open just a crack to peer outside. The silence that enveloped us was unnerving, an eerie stillness that belied the chaos waiting beyond. It's clear. Move quickly. The moment we stepped outside, the chill night air wrapped around us, awakening my senses. We could see the dim shapes of cars parked haphazardly along the street, deserted except for shadows flitting in and out of light. Without hesitating, we sprinted toward the car Marcus had parked a short distance away, every heartbeat drumming against my ribs like an alarm. As we reached it, he opened the back door, and I held my breath, momentarily overwhelmed by a mix of gratitude and anxiety. Get in, he urged, his voice taut with urgency. We climbed in, the weight of fear still pressing down on us. I paused for a breath, my gaze locking onto James. Are we really doing this? I asked, my voice trembling. There's no going back, he murmured, determination etching every word as he tried to dispel his own doubts for the sake of our group. Whether it's with Marcus or not, we have to take a chance. As the engine roared to life, I felt the weight of our choices hanging above us, the dark clouds of potential danger swirling ominously. We sped away from the life we once knew, toward the unknown, each heartbeat echoing the precarious thin line between freedom and fate. But before I could shake off the uncertainty, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, the screen lighting up with a haunting notification. I reached for it, the very air clamoring with an unspoken question as I read the message: "You've just made a grave mistake." My breath caught in my throat as I exchanged a look with James, the flicker of fear in his eyes mirroring my own. "Who is it?" he asked, the tension crackling in the air. But before I could answer, a dark figure emerged from the shadows of the street, glaring down at us with unmistakable intent. As the headlights caught their face, my stomach sank like a stony and unmistakable figure, a reminder that our past lurked closer than we had ever anticipated. The choice to flee had only led us deeper into the storm, and now, it threatened to swallow us whole. As the headlights bathed the figure in an unflinching glare, the familiar expression brought back a rush of memories I desperately tried to forget. Claire, the CEO of the competitor I had worked for, stood there, arms crossed and a smirk playing across her lips. Our paths had crossed before in a different life where I believed ambition governed success rather than betrayal and fear. "What a quaint little reunion," Claire said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I would have thought you would know better than to be out here with him." She motioned dismissively toward Marcus, whose expression flickered between anger and apprehension. "Get out of the way, Claire," he ground out, his grip on the steering wheel tightening. "This isn't the time for games. Oh, but it is," Claire replied, feigning interest. "It's just a shame to see you all tangled up with this rogue." She stepped closer, and I could feel the electric tension in the air, a palpable threat resonating from her words. "Did you really think he'd be your savior? I warned you about him. Get back!" James shouted, his voice filled with an urge to protect us. I felt my heart thunder in my chest, the clamor of uncertainty clawing at me. Claire maintained a steady gaze, her eyes glinting under the streetlights as if she reveled in our turmoil. "You really think you can escape unscathed? You're too close to him, and you know how dangerous that is, Jennifer. None of you are safe here." "Not anymore, and maybe we should leave," I whispered faintly, fear surging in my veins. "No one is going anywhere," Claire said firmly, stepping even closer to our car, her presence a daunting wall we couldn't breach. "You're not the only one who knows what's at stake here. You could play your cards right and save yourselves, but that means leaving him behind." Her eyes flicked to Marcus, a wicked glint of satisfaction lighting up her features. "Never," I spat. The thought of abandoning Marcus felt like a betrayal, yet unease wove through my thoughts like a dark thread. I could see the danger he posed, his past hanging heavily in the air like a storm cloud, but somehow, that tangled history wove us together, making the thought of leaving him feel all the more insufferable. "Is that loyalty or foolishness?" Claire challenged, her smile widening as if she relished the conflict brewing inside me. Before I could respond, a loud sound erupted behind USA police siren, shrill and urgent, breaking the tense standoff. My heart raced as the realization hit: we were caught between two forces, and neither seemed willing to let us escape unscathed. "Drive!" Marcus shouted, and with that, his foot slammed on the accelerator, propelling the car sharply into motion. I felt my stomach lurch in response, but the command snapped everyone's focus. The car hurtled down the street as I glanced back to see Claire's silhouette rapidly shrinking into the night. Her voice echoed in my mind, the implications of her words swirling chaotically. With each lurching turn, I grasped desperately for the reins of control as James and I exchanged frantic glances. "What now?" he shouted over the cacophony of ill-fated decisions circulating within the confines of the car. "There's a safe house, an old friend's place far from here," Marcus replied, urgency lacing through his voice. "But we'll need to move fast. They won't be far behind." As he drove, darkness closing in around us, my thoughts raced. I couldn't ignore the fact that I had trusted Marcus once before and had been proven wrong. His very presence was a risk in itself. Claire's warning about loyalty and foolishness echoed ominously in my mind. "Why should we trust you?" I pressed, the tremor in my voice betraying my fear. "How do we know this isn't just another lie? Because if I wanted to betray you, I would have left you behind when Claire showed up," he replied, his eyes flicking to the rearview mirror with an intensity that spoke volumes. "I'm in this as much as you are now. Whatever happens, we're all in danger." The truth of his words sparked something within me, embers flicker of reluctant belief. The adrenaline surged, my heart dancing to a rhythm of survival. But that flicker wasn't enough to drown out the oppressive weight of my doubts. Were you really misled? I forced out, each word dripping with skepticism. Was it really worth it? Marcus' silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken tension. I could see the internal conflict reflected in his gaze, an abyss of hurt and shame. It was never worth the pain I caused, he admitted, vulnerability cracking through his hardened exterior. But I have a chance to make it right. That's all any of us can hope for. As the city blurred by in streaks of light and darkness, clinging to this possibility felt both intoxicating and dangerous. Hope existed, but shadows lurked, ever watchful and ready to pounce back into our lives. Just as we neared a turn toward the outskirts of town, the headlights of a vehicle materialized behind us, closing the distance unervingly fast. They're gaining on us! James shouted, his knuckles white against the seat. Marcus pressed down harder on the accelerator, but dread coiled within me. The consequences of our choices loomed like ominous clouds, ready to break open at any moment. I gripped the handle tightly, the weight of fear settling in my stomach once more. Hold on! Marcus cried as he swerved around a corner, but chaos erupted as another vehicle barreled down the side road, blocking our escape. The realization hit me as I saw the familiar insignia plastered on the side. It was Claire's goons, remnants of a life I thought I had escaped. Brace yourselves. In that instant, everything cracked apart. The fear that had once driven me was shredded, leaving only the trembling vulnerability of uncertainty. I turned to James, his eyes wide, mirroring my own disbelief. What were we going to face now? Everything I thought I had known shattered like glass, and I was left standing on the precipice, teetering toward an unkind fate. But in that moment of sheer fright, a small spark ignited. Perhaps it was the adrenaline, or simple human will, but it felt like our moments of desperation could carve a new path if only we could survive this one. The engine roared as Marcus wrenched the steering wheel, the tires screeching against the pavement. We were plunging into the unknown, wishing for escape while facing the suffocating grip of our pursuers. I remembered my reflection from moments before, the spark of hope encased within a leaden heart. Every twist of the road amplified that flicker, entangled with the gnawing fear that death or ruin awaited us at every turn. As we barreled forward, Claire's voice echoed in my mind like a morbid mantra, teasing every doubt. I felt the heat of Marcus' agitation beside me, his jaw clenched in concentration, but I could sense the weight of his secrets pressing down on him. What's the plan? I managed to ask, though my voice trembled with uncertainty. There's an alley up ahead. If we can make it there, we might be able to hide, stall them until we can think straight, he replied tightly, determination anchoring his words. I hope that's not just wishful thinking, James urged, anxiety crackling in the air. The headlights of the vehicle behind us flared ominously as they chased our shadows down the street, relentless in their pursuit. Marcus steered sharply, aiming for the projected safety of the alley, but fate had other plans. Just as we approached the narrow opening, a loud bang erupted. Our back tire exploded, sending us careening sideways. A screech of brakes, a jolt of panic, and all I could register was the crunching sound of metal colliding with metal. Time slowed as the world around us faded into a blur. My heart raced as I instinctively reached for James, our hands colliding in a silent plea for comfort amidst the chaos. We need to move! Marcus shouted, scrambling out of the driver's seat. The urgency of his voice snapped me into action. I unbuckled my seatbelt, the realization of our new reality pounding in my chest. We had collided with the world we had desperately tried to flee. Stay down! He called, just as Claire's men emerged from their vehicle, dark silhouettes advancing toward us menacingly. I searched for an escape route, instinctively curling deeper into the cramped space of the back seat as Marcus shielded James and me with his body. A harsh voice broke the night. You'll regret running. You're about to lose everything. It was Claire's right-hand man, his mocking tone sending chills through me. Marcus' eyes darted, filled with fierce resolve. Q, if you want them, you'll have to go through me first, he declared, each word dripping with defiance. I wished I felt the same confidence, but fear knotted my insides, and I realized I was not just afraid for myself, I was terrified for Marcus and James. Get her out of the car, now! Q shouted, gesture commanding his men to approach. The close air weighed heavy. There was something terrifyingly palpable about their intention to wrest control from us. As they moved closer, I caught James' gaze, and we shared that unspoken understanding. We had to fight, to protect whatever hope remained. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, I shoved open the opposite door and leapt out, drawing gasps from several onlookers at the scene. The world hurtled back to life around me, and I ran, feeling the cold night air against my skin, a stark reminder that this was not a game, Jennifer. I heard Marcus calling, panic lacing his voice. But I couldn't stop. I had to find a diversion, something to create the chaos we so desperately needed. I sped down the alley, heart pounding as I tucked behind a dumpster, its stench unbearable, but it didn't matter. I was alive, and my pulse thrummed with purpose. I strained to hear any movement behind me, a sign of their presence, and clutched my breath, hoping I hadn't sacrificed our safety for my reckless choice. Suddenly, footsteps echoed down the alley. I pressed myself against the cold metal, sweat beading on my forehead. Shadows glided past my hiding spot, the voices hushed yet ominous. "Split up." "She can't have gone far," Q instructed, his tone dripping with disdain. Moments later, I was jolted by the sound of Marcus yelling, whether in anger or fear, I could not tell, a desperate plea to keep James safe. Just then, an unexpected voice broke through the tension, soft yet resolute. "Here, let me help you." A woman stepped from the shadows, her face partially hidden under a dark hood, but her eyes gleamed with kindness. It was bewildering, this initial warmth fighting through the bleakness of our situation. "I've been waiting for someone who needed help. Please, come with me." I hesitated, the instinct to remain hidden battling with a newfound desire for connection amidst chaos. "What do you want?" I asked, still afraid of the fate that seemed to stalk us at every turn. "I want to help you. I know you're in danger, and I know Claire. She won't stop until she has what she wants," the woman said urgently, casting a glance toward the men still searching the alley. "But if you trust me, I can lead you to safety." Just as I considered taking her hand, the muffled wail of sirens echoed in the distance, a faint promise of hope and an opportunity to escape. But in that moment of hesitation, Marcus' shout pierced through the night once more, raw with desperation. "I won't leave without you." The choice lumped in my throat, heavy with the promise of uncertainty. I wanted to believe this stranger could help us, that there was still a flicker of safety left in this world painted with darkness, but what if trusting her meant letting Marcus down? The stakes had never been higher. I had to choose whether to answer Marcus' call or venture into the unknown with this mysterious ally who could very well be the key to turning this nightmare around. Then it hit me like ice water washing over flame: Claire was coming. We were out of time, and the sirens were getting closer. I had to make a decision, a choice that could change everything for better or worse. One last look over my shoulder, the crack of urgency lacing my resolve, and I took the stranger's hand, ready to face whatever awaited us on the other side. But as I turned to run, Marcus' pleading eyes met mine, and the weight of that separation wrapped around my heart like chains, a reminder of how truly precarious our hope had become. The echoing footsteps grew louder, and hope tinged with fear pulsed like an anxious heartbeat as I raced down the unfamiliar alley with the woman's hand firmly clasped in mine. With every step, I could feel the stakes climbing higher, each decision we made intermingled with the weight of consequences we may never escape. I glanced back, panic tightening my chest, wondering if I was leaving Marcus behind forever. "A silenced part of my heart, trust me," she said, her voice edged with urgency, forcing me to look forward rather than back into the darkness. Her eyes sparkled, reflecting a fierce determination beneath the shadows. "I know a way out. They won't find you if you stay close." I can't leave him," I stammered, anguish seeping into my voice. I could almost hear Marcus's desperation in my mind, the way he threw himself into danger for me, the way he always had. My heart twisted into a knot. "I promise," she replied, squeezing my hand tighter in her grip. "If you keep moving, we'll find him. But if you hesitate, if you let fear dictate your actions, you may never have another chance." Her words struck me like a jolt of electricity, pushing me forward even as the shadows threatened to swallow me whole. With every hurried breath, I fought against the instinct to turn back, my thoughts frantically racing toward the consequences of my choice. As we rounded the corner, a dim light seeped into the alley, illuminating a narrow exit. My pulse quickened as we approached an old fire escape. "Climb," she urged, her voice low yet laced with the promise of safety. I hesitated for only a moment, the impulse to run clawing at my instincts. But fear for Marcus was an anchor pulling me deeper into despair. What if he couldn't find us? With one last backward glance, I gritted my teeth and started to ascend the rickety wrought iron steps, the rusted metal creaking beneath my weight as I clutched my breath, my heart racing not just for my own survival, but for the well-being of those I had left behind. Each step felt agonizing, a mixture of hope and dread. Would it be easier to stay invisible, to become a ghost in their world of shadows? But salvation climbed higher. Once I reached the rooftop, the cold air sprayed against my skin, awakening a remembrance. Freedom was always pursued in stormy paths, pushing through the downpour of uncertainty. Come on, the woman urged, peering over the ledge before pointing toward a neighboring building, an adjacent rooftop that seemed insurmountable. Just trust me. Well, get to the other side. I nodded, confusion still wrapping around my heart as I took a breath and leaped the moment my foot hit the concrete of the next roof. Exhilaration flooded my being. I had crossed a barrier, but it was mingled with the crushing realization of what I was leaving behind. I wavered on the edge and pressed forward, desperate to escape into the promise of safety and away from the darkness that loomed far too closely behind. Where now? I called, scanning the horizon for any hope. A distant flicker of light sparked within me, igniting dreams of rescue. There's a fire escape on the next building, she said breathlessly, retreating her gaze from the alley below and instead focusing on us. My heart raced as I followed her lead, leaping once more, muscles quaking but my resolve hardening. No turning back now that we reached the final rooftop, the echo of my past life fading like distant thunder. With her guidance, I scampered down, struggling at every creak and shudder of the metal beneath me. We were in motion, a heartbeat pulsing like a drum, every element of my existence screaming for urgency. We're almost there, she encouraged, guiding me around back alleys, darting past shuttered doorways and dilapidated buildings, the echoes of chaos receding into memory. Each step, each turn, felt like the rolling away of shadows. Slowly, I inhaled a fragile thrill of hope. I could feel the universe shift within me, hinting at resilience waiting to awaken. Just when I thought we were finally free, a chilling realization clawed through my mind. Where was Marcus? A desperate plea surged in my chest, igniting a firestorm of emotions I couldn't ignore. What about him? I turned to my companion, voice trembling with anguish. We can't just leave him. The woman's expression softened momentarily, grounding me in a shared humanity. We can't help him if we don't secure our own safety first. Trust me, he wouldn't want you to risk your life right now. Yet every ounce of me rebelled against the idea of abandoning him. Could I truly accept that escaping meant leaving Marcus to face Claire and her men alone? I won't abandon him, I insisted, determination hardening in my chest as I braced myself on the ledge of decision. The world spiraled with uncertainty, but I would not let fear bind me again. Sweet of my resolve, desperation flickered in the woman's eyes. Then let's create a diversion, she urged. If we can bring the chaos to them instead, it'll give him a fighting chance. Then let's do it. With ironclad conviction coursing through my veins, I followed her lead into the murky unknown. A mere flicker of allyship bound us together. We circled back toward the unfolding chaos just as the distant sirens flared back to life, filling the air with a surreal cacophony of impending turmoil. It was here, in the heart of fear and uncertainty, that we would find a path forward. As we edged closer to the confrontation unfolding below, I caught a glimpse of Jameis' silhouette, the flicker of determination in his stance as he stood bravely against the shadowy figures of Claire's henchmen. My heart pulsed with a mixture of pride and dread. Could he hold his ground without me? What's the plan? I whispered to the woman, my throat tight with anxiety. This was his last chance to fight for what mattered most, create noise. Draw their attention, she instructed, her eyes glinting with panic-fueled clarity. I nodded again, unwilling to let fear detract from our purpose. I needed to fight for James. The final seconds clicked by as I scanned the area. A broken glass bottle lay strewn across the ground, a tangible link to chaos waiting to unravel. With trembling fingers, I grasped the bottle and hurled it toward a nearby dumpster, the sharp crash echoing through the alley like a battle cry. The distraction worked, heads turned, shadows shifted, and tension erupted as Claire's men moved toward the noise, thinking they could reclaim power. My heart vaulted in sync with the unfolding shifts, the fading lights of uncertainty igniting more hope within me. The world blurred around me as I followed the flicker of Marcus' shadow, keeping my gaze fixed on James as I sprinted forward. Come on. We can't let them take him, I yelled, my voice struck with raw determination, pulling every ounce of strength to move forward. Marcus joined the fray, bolstering my resolve as shadows danced dangerously closer to snuff out the embers of our hope. In that moment, everything shifted. Never had I known fear like this, yet never had I known the profound power of unity against a tumultuous backdrop. I felt it inside me, pulse of intention, the shared understanding that we existed beyond fear, that in this moment, we would stand together or fall alone. And suddenly, there he was, Jameis' eyes meeting mine, the flicker of vulnerability and fierce determination igniting a timeless connection that transcended our chaos. Together, I whispered, and it was no longer a plea but a promise. It was our undying rhythm, a call to navigate this storm, two souls tethered in uncertain fates. In that heartbeat, I knew, no darkness could withstand the light we chose to forge together.